The rules in this country are rigged against working people from their first day on the job. The current legal and political framework favors corporate interests dedicated to rolling back worker protections and advancing business practices that leave fewer and fewer workers covered by existing laws. This rigged system has helped produce the rising inequality and stagnant wages for most workers that mark the U.S. economy of the last 4 decades. The rigging in this rigged system is vast, but one key part includes the companion issues of the misclassification of employees as independent contractors and the ability of firms who hire contractors to claim that they are not employers of contract workers whose conditions of work they have control over. Why are these things a problem? For one, when workers are independent contractors, they do not receive federal workplace protections, such as the minimum wage, overtime pay, safety standards, the right to join a union. By misclassifying employees as independent contractors, employers are able to shirk their responsibilities to provide these basic workplace protections. At the same time, today's workplaces have become increasingly fissured as lead firms outsource labor-intensive functions to contractors and subcontractors, and as a result, workers who are employees of contract firms and are classified as employees may have multiple firms dictating their pay, dictating their hours, dictating their job duties, and these arrangements have facilitated the lead firm's ability to evade liability for labor violations, making it nearly impossible for employees working under these arrangements to enforce their workplace rights or to bring firms who control their conditions of work to the bargaining table to negotiate for better conditions. So a key step in addressing our rigged system is therefore to address both employee misclassification and to make sure that employees are employees of all firms who control their working conditions. So a recent law was passed in California that provides, I think, a really important lesson here. California Assembly Bill 5, or AB 5, was signed into law on September 18th. It codifies this strict test known as the ABC test for figuring out whether a worker is an independent contractor. So to be an independent contractor under this law, the worker must A, be free from the company's control, B, be doing work that isn't central to the company's business, and C, have an independent business in that industry. If a worker doesn't meet all 3 of these very common sense conditions, then they have to be classified as an employee. The bill likely gave tens, if not hundreds of thousands of workers employee status in California. Until very recently, you would not have thought, or it would have been reasonable if you would not have thought that the ABC test would gain widespread support. Now it is the law of the land in California, and it should be the law of the land nationwide. And furthermore, all employees should be required to provide workers with a statement that includes whether the worker is an employee or an independent contractor, and if they are an independent contractor, exactly how they pass each prong of the ABC test. When employers are required to provide written notice of terms of employment, it reduces the noncompliance that results from employers being able to easily hide violations. And further, all firms that share control over a worker's terms of employment must be considered employers of that worker or joint employers. A federal joint employer standard should be the default for both collective bargaining and for responsibility with compliance with basic labor standards. And importantly, we should look to the ABC test to develop an equally strong standard for determining who is a joint employer. A strong joint employer standard will hold all firms that have control over the terms and conditions of employment, either directly or indirectly, and including through complicated contract language that gives any authority over terms and conditions of employment. It will hold all of those firms accountable for collective bargaining and compliance with labor and employment protections. The passage of AB 5 in California has shown us that in the modern economy, we can and must push for the most pro-worker standards possible. These companion measures to strengthen the determination of who is an employee and who is an employer would be a crucial step towards holding corporations accountable for workers' rights and unrigging the system that is tilted against workers. Thank you.